the Bandidos' top leaders.
Bandidos gang have been arrested.
Guns, drugs, and more.
Their name ignites fear everywhere they go. A name synonymous with outlaws, signifying their never-ending thirst for blood. Cut one, we all bleed. A motto that is deeply entrenched in every action they do. Yet despite all this bloodthirst and rage, a fierce rival hungers for their blood, shaking the criminal world and leaving the outlaw universe gasping for air. Who dares stand against the mighty Bandidos? And what do they have against them? Stand by for an epic tale of an action-packed rivalry between two of the mightiest motorcycle clubs in the world. The Bandidos Origin. To understand the origins of this bitter rivalry, let's go back to November 23, 1930. In the raging heat of Houston, Texas, United States, a young boy is born. His parents innocently name him Donald Eugene Chambers. Unbeknownst to them, they have just unleashed a mighty kraken that will make governments tremble in fear and shake the criminal underworld. Chambers grows up as a normal kid, but nothing is normal about his nature. He demonstrates over-competitiveness in everything he does. So it's no wonder he enrolls into the Marinas and is sent to the Vietnam War. The war hardens him, bringing out the worst in him. Once the war is over, he comes back to his home country. But life in Texas is not what he was used to. And like many of the Vietnam veterans, he yearns for a sense of belonging with people who've been through what he's been through. It should be noted that veterans who used to ride military motorcycles in the war continue to do so once they come back home, forming small groups called motorcycle clubs. So our man, Chambers, decides to join one, and another, and another. He joins multiple motorcycle clubs, all leaving a lot to be desired. He reaches a breaking point and decides to form his own club. Little does he know his baby motorcycle club will grow to terrorize the world and be among the most revered biker clubs in the world. On March 4, 1966, in San Leon, Texas, he forms the Bandidos Motorcycle Club, named so after the Mexican bandits who lived by their own rules. He starts recruiting members from biker bars locally in Houston, as well as in Corpus Christi, Galveston, and San Antonio. The club's membership grows like a flourishing garden, steadily expanding and thriving with each passing day. Some club members even nickname him Mother, symbolizing the role he plays in founding the club. By the early 1970s, the club has gained over 100 members, including many Vietnam War veterans. But their honeymoon is about to be cut short by a formidable force, and all they can do is sit and wait. But will they? The Bandidos Expansion. Soon after their formation, they begin establishing chapters in various parts of Texas, spreading their presence throughout the state. They quickly gain a reputation for their criminal activities, such as drug trafficking, extortion, and violent criminal confrontations. Chambers knows such attention from law enforcers will likely curtail their growth. So what does he do? He oversees the abduction, beating, and handing over to police of a Bandidos member. He sacrifices one of his own to the police for a charge of murder, unrelated to club business, which was drawing unwanted attention from law enforcement to the club. Talk about ruthless leadership. However, little does he know that the long hand of the government will catch up with him too. And in 1972, he is sentenced to life for murder, passing over the leadership of Bandidos to Ronald Jerome Hodge. Under his reign, the club grows extensively, extending its reach into Sydney, Europe, and Asia. He quickly becomes known as the Stepmother, an extension from his predecessor's nickname. But the Bandidos' presence in Europe captures the attention of another rival club, a club formed 20 years before them that has already established itself in the Nordic streets of Europe. This club will not give up their territory easily, and neither will they tolerate encroachment. A war is about to unravel, and it's only a matter of who will throw the first punch. The First Nordic War. Let's now shift focus to Europe, where Bandidos have established a chapter in Marseille, France. They have big dreams of expanding their drug trade in Europe, but they have no idea what they're going up against. Europe, especially the Nordic region, is seen as a lucrative ground for biker clubs, especially since they already have a biker culture. In between these Nordic streets, a war is raging between local biker clubs. On the one side are the United MC, and on the other side are the Filthy Few MCs. Several years later, Commander Troels Erting Jørgensen of the Danish police will take to the media, addressing Canadian journalists Julian Scheer and William Marsden in a 2006 interview. No one has ever done a sociological investigation as to why in this small, extremely peaceful country of Denmark, we have so many chapters of outlaw motorcycle gangs. They are very much hardliners, they are fierce, they are violent. We are the country of Hans Christian Andersen. We should not create crooks like that. Bent Svanny Nielsen, the then president of Hells Angels, sees this club rivalry in Europe as an opportunity to gain ground in Europe. He convinces United MC to become part of Hells Angels and establish a Hells Angels chapter in Denmark, which they do. Filthy Few MC's contempt grows even bigger after hearing this news, and they immediately set out on a campaign to convince other rival clubs to join hands against the Hells Angels. They recruit other anti-Hells Angels biker clubs, and together form a new motorcycle club called the Bullshit MC. This new entity believes Denmark belongs to them, and they won't allow a foreign American club to dominate their streets. They will teach these Americans a lesson and send them back to the sender. Or so they think. September 24th, Denmark, 1983, Copenhagen. 3 members of Bullshit MC, accompanied by a female associate, confront some Hells Angels at their local hangout. A fight quickly breaks out, and 2 of the 3 Bullshit members, Soren Grabo Grander and Flemming Hall Jensen, die from the wounds sustained from a knife and broken bottle. The entire list of casualties from this war results in the death of 1 Hells Angels member, 8 Bullshit MC members, and 2 civilians, permanently destroying the Bullshit MC and leaving Hells Angels as the dominant outlaw biker club in Denmark and Scandinavia as a whole. At least for now. This whole time, Bandidos are closely monitoring what's happening in Scandinavia. In the meantime, they have spread their wings throughout Australia, giving them the much-needed momentum to propel them into European dominance, where their fiercest adversaries await their arrival. So when the news of their intended spread to Europe reaches the Hells Angels, the Geneva chapter sends 5 Hells Angels members to the Bandidos chapter in Marseille, France, the only Bandidos chapter in Europe at the time. They kill the Bandidos Marseille vice president and injure his 2 bodyguards, and with that, an all-out war between Bandidos and the Hells Angels is declared. What follows is a series of massive recruitment by both clubs in preparation for the said war. They quickly recruit small-time motorcycle clubs in the region, galvanizing their support for a common purpose, the goal, dominating the European region. But just before the bloodshed, a ceasefire agreement is initiated. The Hells Angels Oakland chapter president meets with the Houston, Texas Bandidos chapter to negotiate a truce. But why would 2 rival gangs prefer to down their weapons and negotiate for a truce? Because of their common enemy, the police. The truce. They both agree that the war would bring unwanted attention to their operations in Europe, which would lead to massive losses in their criminal drug trade business. Additionally, the war will limit their expansion into the region and turn the public opinion against them. They don't want that. So after fierce negotiations, the agreement is made. Bandidos are to inform the Hells Angels any time they want to form a new chapter in the region, signed and sealed. And so the Bandidos expansion into Scandinavia begins. First on their to-do list is setting up a chapter in Copenhagen, the de facto capital of the Nordic region. They convince the Undertaker's MC, formerly Mortician's MC, to join them, forming the Bandidos Copenhagen chapter. But the Hells Angels are uneasy. They demand that the Bandidos stop expanding any further into Denmark. But the new Bandidos Copenhagen chapter president, Jim Tindon, also known as Big Jim, is not a man of his words, and he certainly wasn't there when the Bandidos agreed to the non-aggression pact with the Hells Angels. He also seems to have a personal vendetta against the Hells Angels, and he successfully recruits similar individuals into the Bandidos, especially the former Bullshit MC members, whose dominance was mercilessly thwarted by the Hells Angels. This action would send seismic waves across the criminal underworld of Denmark, setting the stage for arguably the most gruesome biker war in history, the Second Nordic War. Meanwhile, the Hells Angels have spread their wings far and wide in Europe, ruthlessly squashing any rebellion that stands in their way. And so when they meet up with the Morbids MC and the Rebels MC in Sweden, two sworn enemies who yearn to be full-patch Hells Angels members, they want them to join them as one club. But the Morbids MC will hear none of this, and they would rather die than form ties with the Rebels. Knowing that their rejection of the Hells Angels' offer will be taken as a death wish, they rush to the Bandidos MC for protection. And guess who's at the helm of the Bandidos Copenhagen chapter? Big Jim, a fearsome hater of the Hells Angels. So this feels like music to his ears, a dream come true for him. He welcomes the Morbids with open arms. On January 22, 1994, the Morbids become the first official Bandidos chapter in Sweden. In a retaliatory action, the Hells Angels order the rebels to shoot the Morbids clubhouse. As if that's not enough, a few days later, the newly appointed Swedish chapter Hells Angels president descends on the Morbids clubhouse with a machine gun on top of a van. Luckily, only one Bandido loses a finger in the attack. With the Second Nordic War now underway, what follows is a series of attacks from both the Bandidos and the Hells Angels, resulting in hundreds of casualties, both civilians and club members. 9 gang members are killed, with shootings and bombings totaling another 74 attempted murders. The bikers utilize car bombs, machine guns, hand grenades, anti-tank missiles, and small arms during their gang war, as assassination attempts extend into prison walls. The entire war is happening in Copenhagen in Denmark, Helsinki in Finland, Oslo in Norway, and Helsingborg in Sweden. Ceasefire. But the conflict effectively comes to an end in the summer of 1997 when the two sides reach a peace agreement thanks to a well-known defense lawyer, Thorkild Høyer, who acts as a mediator. On 25 September 1997, Bent Svane Nielsen of the Hells Angels and the then Bandidos president, Jim Tindon, announced during a press conference that the rival clubs had ended their war. We cannot give guarantees that there will be no more incidents, but we can actively intervene and ensure that those who defy the cooperation agreement are excluded from our biker culture. Soon after the agreement, the Bandidos and Hells Angels quickly expand into their allotted territories after the peace treaty, and the crime rates among the club's members return to pre-conflict levels. But the two biker clubs remain sworn enemies, and if push comes to shove, they're ready to defend their honor and protect their interests at all costs. No one wants that, not even the government.